Listening, TOEFL. Listening seems like the most intimidating and most frustrating section of TOEFL. It's not only that you have multiple speakers that are speaking at once, but you also have distractions and background noises that just make it harder and harder to go through the listening. But it is real life, because in real life, when you're talking to a friend or talking to someone on the street, you will hear background noises. You will be in a group of friends and everyone is speaking at the same time. It's just real life. But don't worry, I will spill the beans. Spill the beans means to tell you the secret. And yeah, if you want to know more about idioms, please click on the link up here. I have a video. But yeah, I will spill the beans because every listening of TOEFL follows a pattern, and I will reveal the pattern to you today. Welcome back to my channel. As always, I'm super happy that you're here. Don't forget to subscribe and don't forget to like this video. Also, don't forget to check out my website. I offer free trial lessons and also preparation courses for TOEFL, IELTS, and Cambridge. In today's video, we're going to talk about the TOEFL listening section, and in particular, we're going to look at the lectures. So let's dive into it. The listening section on TOEFL looks like the following. You will hear 3 to 4 lectures with 6 questions each, and 2 to 3 casual conversations with 5 questions each. We will focus only on the lectures today, and in another video I will talk about the casual conversations. So let's look at the structure of the lectures. The lecture always starts with a greeting. The professor or the teacher enters the class and he or she greets the students. This is not important for the questions. The second step is the topic of the lecture. This is very important, and this is where you should take notes, because the teacher or professor is going to announce the topic of the lecture, and he or she will say it with today, or in today's lecture, or in this lecture. Take notes. The next thing you will hear are details and or examples. The lecturer will give you some details about the topic and or examples. This is also very important and you should take notes. The fifth step is the conclusion. This will not always be obvious, as some lectures just end abruptly, but at some point they will summarize the topic or say goodbye to the students. Sometimes, and just sometimes, you will hear questions or comments. These questions or comments can come from students, or the lecturer just comments on a question by answering it. Okay, so this was the structure. What are the challenges? As I said before, the challenge is that you have multiple speakers, you have background noises, you have distractions. The speaker will not speak in one flow. As I'm doing it right now, I'm doing okay, so let's move here, let's go there. So this is the part where the listening gets a bit difficult and tricky. You are allowed to take notes, but you need to balance it. Most students make the mistake of taking too many notes, and while they're taking all these notes, they cannot focus on the speaking anymore and they're missing a lot of important information. When taking notes, you need to focus on what, why, reasons, examples, and conclusion. While listening, you need to focus on the purpose of the lecture. So at the beginning of the class, the lecturer will give you the topic of the lecture. This is important. You also need to focus on the reasons and examples. So everything after the purpose, with the examples and the details, you need to write down. I will read a lecture from the TOEFL book to you right now, and your task is to write down the purpose and the reason or the examples that are mentioned in the lecture. Are you ready? Let's go. Okay, class, let's get started. Today, today we're going to talk about the structural functionalist theory in sociology. You guys remember last week we discussed the interactionist perspective, right? Now that theory, the interactionist theory, focused on how people get along with one another and the way that interactions create behaviors. This theory, the structural functionalist theory, I'm just going to call it the functionalist theory. It's very different. Now, we'll talk about the historical context of this theory a little bit later, but first, I would like to just go over the main tenets of the theory. The basic view of functionalism is that our behaviors and actions can be best explained explained by the role, or the function, if you will, that they perform for the society as a whole. Now, that may be a little vague. What do I mean by that? Well, let's look at some different behaviors and see how functionalists would explain them. A good example would be the drug use. A functionalist wouldn't really judge a drug user as a deviant, a bad person. Instead, the functionalist would try to figure out what role the drug user, the person, fills in society. This seems a little strange at first, but bear with me. Think about what role a drug user fills in society. You may automatically think that the role is always negative. Crime, the cost of treatment, maybe more jails. But the functionalist tries to see the positive as well. I bet you're thinking that drug use doesn't have too many positives, right? Well, here's what a functionalist would say. While a drug user may be harming himself, or herself to be fair, he's also benefiting the society. Having drug users means we need to have more police, which means obviously more jobs. And also, if you think about it, more doctors, nurses, and social workers, even drug counselors. All these people would be out of work probably if we didn't have a drug problem. Let's keep going. Without drug users, we wouldn't need the entire drug enforcement agency. The bureau employs thousands of people, and there's also the border patrol, customs agents, and so on and so on. So I think our example has given you a pretty good idea of how a functionalist views behaviors. Again, the important thing is that they don't really judge behaviors as good or bad. They only view them based on their role or function in society. And I think we can probably guess then that to a functionalist, all behaviors, no matter how good or bad you may think they are necessary to society. It's really a pretty interesting viewpoint if you think about it. This was a lecture from the TOEFL IBT preparation book 2022 edition, and it was on page 114. So the purpose of the lecture was to describe the functionalist theory, so the main tenets of this theory, and the example was the drug use and the drug consumers. Also, the jobs that drug consumers and drug users kind of create. He mentioned, or she mentioned, police, counselors, doctors, nurses, border control agents, and so forth. Now let's analyze every paragraph together. And the first paragraph starts with a greeting, as you can see here with "Okay class, let's get started." Then the professor mentions the topic, which is the functionalist theory. And then he or she gives a bit of more background, which is number 3, and then a bit more background, which is not important for you in this case. In the second paragraph, you can see a transition. So sometimes professors just make a transition to get into the topic a little bit more, but this is not important for you. Also, you can see a digression. Here, the professor mentions that we will talk about the historical context a little bit later. So this will probably be in another lecture and is nothing that interests you at this point. The third paragraph starts with the basic view of functionalism. And this is a definition or an explanation, and every professor does this at the beginning of a new topic. They define the topic. Sentence 2 and 3 are digressions and are really not important for you at this point. You don't need to focus on this. And sentence 4 is another transition and is also not important for you. The fourth paragraph starts with, a good example would be the drug use. So this is important for you, because this is an example for the topic, and the example is the drug use. So here, now you need to really focus and write it down. The second sentence gives you a detailed explanation of the example. So here the professor really talks about drug users, or like, let's say, drug consumers, and the third and fourth sentence are digressions, again, not important for you. And sentence number 5 is a transition again to the next paragraph. The next paragraph starts with, I bet you're thinking that drug use doesn't have too many positives. Right. Okay, so let's look at it. The first and second sentence are transitions. Not important to you. But the sentence 3 until sentence 7 are quite important because the lecturer talks about some details. It's going to be impossible for you to write down every single detail, and you don't need to. Just write down as many as possible. So if you write down 2 or 3, that's totally fine for you. You don't need to write down every single one. You won't have time and you will lose a lot of detail. You can see that there is a lot going on in a listening comprehension, but you don't really need to focus on everything. You just need to focus on the purpose, which is the topic of the lecture, and the details or examples. So what is this topic about? If the topic is this functionalist theory, then the example is, for example, drug use. And then the lecturer talks more about drug use and creating more jobs, but it's also a bit negative. On the other side, also positive. You really don't need to focus on everything. Remember to focus on the what, the why, 3 reasons or examples, and the conclusion. These 4 points, nothing else. Keep that in mind. In another video, I'm going to focus on the casual conversations. This was a video about lectures. I hope this helps you. Please don't forget to subscribe, and please don't forget to like this video. Also, don't forget to check out my website. I offer free trial lessons and also preparation courses for TOEFL, where we really look into everything in detail. I hope to see you soon in another session with Learn English with Sandra.